righty, to section 3, COVID-19, and we're going to be talking about the governmental response tonight. We are so excited that you have joined us again on this Thursday night as we discuss COVID-19 as it relates to the marketplace. If you missed out last week, we talked about COVID-19 and the business sector. If you have a small business, you may go back to United Christian Faith Ministries and watch that session from last week. There was a lot of great information that was included. So let me tell you a little bit about who we are. We're United Excel Social Justice Ministry. And when we talk about social justice is the equitable distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privileges. And that is what we fight for. United Excel was birthed out of United Christian Faith Ministries with our pastor, Mark Ellis. I am so excited to have a pastor who sees social justice as an important issue for the community and has taken on the challenge to not talk about it, but to create programs that will address it. United Excel is dedicated to the education, advocacy, and empowerment of the Baton Rouge community. And we use what we call our MEDS model. We're looking morally, economically, domestically, and socially. And we're also promoting peace and justice around the world. This is a research-based organization and is designed to bring knowledge and awareness to the community. That is our goal tonight. During this time of COVID, we have a lot of questions that need answers. So we are bringing the people in that know the answers. And so we are trying to make sure that we are putting as much information out there as we can. The heart of United Excel resides in the outreach department at United Christian Faith Ministries. And in there, our goal is to feed the hungry, ensure that people are being paid a living wage, making sure that people have access to quality education. Also looking at startup capital for our businesses, making sure we have a seat at the table for government and private contracts and access to capital. Caring for the needs of people that are incarcerated, and not only those individuals, but their families as well, and also access to health care. Tonight, we got a lot of phenomenal information, but we want to make sure that if you have resources and if you have information that you would like for us to share, please text "Got More" to 225-250-1970. Again, 225-250-1970. Or if you feel that social justice is a part of your calling and you would like to join our team, you do not have to be a member of United Christian Faith Ministries to join our team. You can just text "Justice" to 225-250-1970. And our classes have already started, but it's not too late to join. Text "Justice" to 225-250-1970. Next, so tonight we have a phenomenal program related to COVID-19 and the government. Next week, we're going to be looking at COVID-19 and the educational system. So the sessions do not stop tonight. Join us next week as well. But tonight we have some wonderful panelists. These individuals, every time we make the call and say, "Hey, we need you," they come and they come excitedly. They never give any pushback, but they want to come and serve the community and provide the information that we have. We have Senator Regina Barrow with us tonight and Chief Murphy Paul, who is joining us tonight. Jessica Matthews of Baton Rouge Collective Healing Project is going to be our moderator tonight, and she is going to introduce our guests. So once again, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello. Thank you, everybody, for joining today's session. Let's get started. I'm going to introduce our guests. First, I want to talk about the fabulous, the wonderful Senator Regina Barrow. In 2005, Regina Ashford Barrow was elected to the Louisiana House of Representatives as a Louisiana State Representative for District 29, and then re-elected to serve her third consecutive term as the State Representative for District 29 in 2011. In 2015, she was elected to the Louisiana State Senate. As a state legislator, Senator Barrow has actively been involved in giving her community the leadership they deserve. As a representative, Senator Barrow passed several pertinent pieces of legislation, including Act 264, which provides National Guard members who re-enlist in the National Guard the opportunity to receive free college tuition up to a doctorate degree. She also ushered through the Act 98, which creates a new economic development district for the North Baton Rouge area. Senator Barrow is also deeply committed to strong ethics within our state government. Senator Barrow is a graduate of Fleming's Fellow Leadership Institute Fellow and the Council of State Government Center for Advancement of Leadership. In addition, she will be pursuing her degree in business administration over the next years. She is also the state director of the Women in Government and Women in Legislature Lobby and the regional chair for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. Senator Barrow, there's so many things in her bio that I had to just pick out some great things, a few of the great things, but we're just happy to have her on today. Welcome, Senator Regina Barrow.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right, our next panelist is Chief Murphy Paul. Chief Murphy J. Paul Jr. retired from the Louisiana State Police as a deputy superintendent for more than 26 years in law enforcement. During his career at LSP, Chief Paul held several management and leadership positions that included the oversight of gaming operations, criminal investigations, special investigations, and the LSP Fusion Center. Chief Paul retired from LSP to fulfill his new appointment as the Chief of Baton Rouge Police Department. Chief Paul began his career with the Baton Rouge Police Department in January 1st, 2018. The Baton Rouge Police Department is comprised of 883 positions, of which 698 are sworn police officers. They provide service to a population of approximately 230,000 residents within a 79 square mile area. Throughout his law enforcement career, Chief Paul has served on several boards and commissions. As the Louisiana Governor's Drug Policy Board, the Association of State Criminal Investigative Agencies, the Regional Counter Drug Training Academy, and the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Executive Board. Additionally, he is represented LSP on the Joint Terrorist Task Force Executive Board. Chief Paul is a post-FBI certified instructor and a graduate of the FBI National Academy. Chief Paul received a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Loyola University in New Orleans, Louisiana, and has been the recipient of numerous commendations and awards throughout his career. Thank you for being here, Chief Paul. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I'll say this. For me, the most difficult part of this is all over. Reading in public is like a fear for me. That is something that I do not enjoy.
You're doing a great job.
The hardest part is done. I have read in public. I also do want to mention that it's possible that Councilman Lamont Cole will pop in with us. And for sure, once he gets in, he's going to be able to jump into this conversation. I gathered some questions from our team members over the past week, and then just people that have come. Oh, there he is. Hi, Councilman.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Likewise.
I'm gonna read your bio real quick. Is that okay?
Yes, I'm just happy to be sharing this opportunity with the three esteemed guests here. You don't have
to. Exactly. This is like a triple threat. So I'm gonna read your bio. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we're going back to my fear, but it's okay. Councilman Lamont Cole has served as councilman of Council District 7 since January of 2016. During his service, he gained national acclaim for his activism and advocacy for police brutality reform during the wake of the Alton Sterling murder. Months later, he led the charge to raise thousands in philanthropic funding to support families in rebuilding and achieving normalcy. In addition to his work, he has led the charge to execute a disparity study, which is required by law to provide a comprehensive analysis of just how fractured the economic distribution system is and how minorities are being left out of the equation. His work as Chief Academic Officer of the Network of Public Schools has afforded him the opportunity to increase educational opportunities through creating a space within the community that promotes and inspires academic rigor and participation. As the former president of Baton Rouge's NAACP and former program director of Young Leadership Academy, Cole increased organizational impact through innovative initiatives. His commitment to the community is evident. On any given weekday or evening, he can be found at a local football game or community event, even being in his element with the people. Cole's mantra is, there are only two things in life that one must commit to. Any level of, let me start that over. There are only two times in life when one must commit him or self to any level of significant success. When excuse me, Councilman Cole.
Yes.
Could you read your mantra for me? Because I'm sure that's your mantra.
I won't read it, but I'll tell you what it is. There are only two times in life a person must commit him or herself to any level of sustainable success: when you feel like it and when you don't. When you feel like it, you need to be committed, and when you don't feel like it, we need you committed. If you can do that and you can fall in love with improvement, you'll be okay.
Excellent. It's so much better hearing it coming out of your mouth than me reading it from a piece of paper. Welcome, and we're glad to have you. The first question that I'm posing to the group is, as we have had, as you all as leaders, and this is something for people who aspire to be leaders or who are finding themselves in leadership roles, I think your input would be important. As leaders, how has working in these times during catastrophes, I mean, we have COVID going on, but you all have been working with the flood. You worked in hurricane season. How has that shaped your leadership? And is there anything that you're learning even now about yourself as a leader? And that anybody can start with that. Looks like Chief is talking.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chief.
Okay. Well, we're in unprecedented times right now. And what I've learned as a leader in this short period of time is the importance of working in an ever-changing environment and understanding that as leaders, we have to embrace change. Change is good. We have to embrace it. And I think that this COVID-19 threat that we're currently under just highlights that. I think if you look at any leadership book, they talk about how you have to embrace change because as a society, we continue to change. But one of the things that really stood out to me as I evaluate myself as a leader is learning how to manage your emotions, right? The importance of having your own mental healthy, right? Being healthy and that you're getting the help that you need as a leader to manage your stress in these unprecedented times. Because if you're not right, then you can't help others, right? It's hard to lead if you're not mentally prepared. But also the importance of officer wellness for our police officers. I learned the importance of making sure that we are there for them during these trying times because the same stress and anxiety that we're going through as a community, our police officers experience the same thing. So it's important for us to get them help and make sure that they know that the environment in law enforcement is safe for them to get help because mental health is real and it affects all of us. And the other one is providing continuing factual information, not only to my officers, but also to the public. Look, with social media out there, when you are going through trauma, then there are emotions that are associated with that. And when someone is going through an experience like that, stressful, anxiety, it's easy for them to be manipulated or taken advantage over. So when you have misinformation out there and people that are presenting negativity, it's important as leaders to make sure that we stay on top of that, especially internally. We were very deliberate and intentional and constantly putting information out to our officers about COVID-19, about what they can do to protect themselves, what they can do to protect their families. And that was so important. And the last point I'll leave with is the importance of having people of God on your leadership team.
Come on.
You don't know that there's a God or there's a need for God.
Amen.
Now is a testament. So we opened up our meetings with prayer. And when you have faith, men of faith in your circle, like Deputy Chief Herbert Andy,
Yeah.
who helps us start our meetings off, understanding the importance and how blessed we are in putting God first. I believe I learned a lot from making sure that was a foundation of our meetings and how we do business.
That's great. That's
Amen.
wonderful.
Amen.
That is awesome. I
Yeah.
totally agree. Totally agree. I will say that one of the things that I have learned that I appreciate more than anything else is that everybody have a different leadership style, and I've learned to embrace my own leadership style, not trying to mimic other leadership style because I was designed this way, and the way that I'm designed is just the way that I need to be for my job and what I'm called to do. And so I would say to individuals that everybody have their own unique leadership style, and not trying to imitate others, I think is extremely important. And I had to learn that. That was not something I knew initially. Initially, when I was elected, I tried to imitate others, but I found that did not work. And so I just began to be my own unique self. And as a result, what I bring to the table is very important. Um, the other thing is I've learned that whatever I need, I already have it. It's on the inside of me. You know, sometimes as these disastrous things have come up, I never thought that I would have been able to handle them. But as they come about, every time, whatever it was, whatever I needed at that time, it was already on the inside of me, and it came out. And then I was connected to the right people, making sure that you are connected to the right people and having a good strong circle of people inside of influence. That's important. The chief spoke about having that spiritual component. That's extremely important. But having people that can really prop you up, people that can be your sounding board, because in this arena you can't speak and talk to everybody about what's going on, but making sure that you have people that you can confide in is extremely important. And then again, I cannot echo enough what Chief Paul said in terms of your own mental health and taking care of yourself. And as a woman, it's extremely hard for us because we are just by nature caregivers. We care for our families. We care for everybody. And so it's hard sometimes to disconnect from that because you just want to care and care and care, but you have to make sure that you take care of yourself, because at the end of the day, if you don't take care of yourself, then you will not be able to take care of anybody else.
Yeah.
So those things to me are extremely important. And I would say to individuals, you don't have to look to try to be like somebody else. Just allow God to use you with your own creative style to go forth as a leader.
Yeah. Self-care is key. How about you, Senator Cole? Any gems to drop?
Well,
Councilman Cole.
I appreciate both of the comments from the senator and chief. You definitely have to keep your circle small. Individuals who will be honest with you about what you're doing or what you need to do. You don't need yes people around you. You need the best people around you, to be honest with you, to help you make tough decisions. But I think in challenging times, it's really important to identify where the biggest need is, and then identify exactly what you can do and where you can be the best resource. I think oftentimes in challenging situations, so many people start trying to do so many different things, and that's wonderful. And so you may find yourself trying to do, to the senator's point, everything that everybody else is doing. What's key is you have to be very clear on what it is you do well and what resources you have access to, and then figure out what the need is of the people you're trying to serve. And if you can figure out what the need is, and then figure out how you can be a resource to provide those needs, then focus all of your energies there. Have a team around you who perhaps may be seeking out other resources to assist, but identifying what the need is and where you can best serve is probably one of the most important things I've learned. Because a wise man once told me, sometimes all you can do is the best you can do. So figure out the best thing you know how to do in any situation. And of course, we recognize in a challenging situation, those things are going to be heightened. You figure out how best you can serve based on where the greatest need is. And that will keep you focused. And then the people will appreciate that because it'll keep you consistent. And when opportunities come for you to do other things and do them well, then do that. I personally am not one who's going to try and do everything everybody else is doing, but I am going to support, I am going to cheer, and I am going to clap for everybody who's doing everything to provide support for our community. I believe it's far time out for us to be against each other. I think we have to support one another and help where we can.
That's good. That's good. I'm about to move on to some more questions. This one is COVID specific, and anyone can jump in. What COVID-related policy changes should the community be aware of? Are there any? Are there any policy changes or things that we should know about?
Well, let me speak to this. As a result of COVID, and
Repeat the question.
I'm gonna speak to it from an education perspective, because I think this is something we have to be very clear about. With all of the changes coming out, guidelines coming out in terms of children returning to school and distance learning being one of the priorities as we look to educate our children, I just think it's important for all of us to be very mindful. Children in this country still need to be educated at high levels. And with COVID-19 changing the brick and mortar setting, which we know is the equalizer for children, to a distance learning center, which may expose what the haves and have-nots, we have to be very mindful and careful to ensure that we're preparing for the future continuously by helping our children be prepared.
Okay. Senator Barrow, you didn't hear the question. I was asking if there are any COVID-related policy changes that the community at large should be aware of.
Well, I will say that in the legislature, there are a couple of things that are kind of moving through the process that actually are COVID related. There are some policy changes. One of the things that we tried to get passed, but it unfortunately was unsuccessful on yesterday, was dealing with voting, which will allow people to be during a disaster, declared disaster, which is definitely related to COVID-19. So unfortunately, a piece of legislation did not pass. However, there are several other things that are moving. We have set up the Health Equity Task Force, and so they're looking at access. And so another measure that actually is moving is making sure that all tests no cost to individuals who need to take the test. So I think going forward, because certainly I believe that COVID-19, unfortunately, is going to be here for a while. And according to the epidemiologists and the doctors and so forth, we'll have a resurgence during the fall. We want to make sure that we do have some protective measures in place to ensure access. I think access is a big issue. Ensuring that people are.
Uh-oh. Looks like we lost her. Hopefully she gets in a better area. I know she's driving, but she was saying she was dropping some good information there. So definitely when she gets back on, I'm gonna hit her up for that info. Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah, I can take over from there because there's some things that they not necessarily know about. You know, it was important for us. We believe that there were changes necessary to steps that we had to put in place to minimize exposure to our officers and those involved in the booking process. So we believe that postponing arrests and court appearance does create a mountain of cases due to the threat, but we believe that deferring these low-level drug offenses and other cases were in the best interest of the public health at this time. So some of the things we did, we seized arrests for a misdemeanor or felonies that do not involve an imminent risk of violence. We seize warrant arrests for minor traffic violations, misdemeanors, or other nonviolent offenses. Nonviolent offenses, such as I stated earlier, simple possessions, you were not arrested. We documented those incidents and continue just like if it was an arrest, and we're going to deal with those individuals at a later time. directed patrols at supermarkets, convenience stores, gas stations, things like that. We did roll call meetings, everything through video conference, just like we're doing right now. But one of them, the big one, was our real-time crime center, and how we're able to take calls for service over the phone through video conference like we're speaking now. So that helped us as well. So those are some of the things. If you ever call law enforcement now, you may not necessarily get a police officer, but you may get someone on a video conference just like this to take that call, so we can practice social distances during this threat.
So if I had like a burglary at my house, would it be appropriate to call and have the video conference that way, or like maybe an accident on the street or something like that? Is
Right.
that
Accident with no injury, blocking the roadway, obviously we'll send someone out. But if there's no impairment, no disturbance between the drivers, we will take that through the telephone reporting unit. Minor incidents where there's no evidentiary value on the scene, where we actually have to send crime scene out there to take evidence, something like that. We could, TRU, we have a supervisor there that will screen those calls and make that determination as they come in. But it's for low-level calls for service, what we call Code 1 calls for services are being. To date, since the stay-at-home order, we've received over 2,500 calls for services in our telephone reporting unit. So those are calls where we didn't have to dispatch a police officer.
That's great. Councilman Cole, I have a question.
Sure.
There's a CARES Act funding that's people are seeing go throughout the city, and the question I've gotten from folks to ask you all is, how are we ensuring the equitable distribution of that funding, be it for a nonprofit or what have you? How can, smaller grassroots agencies, how are we ensuring that they have access, and maybe that money is just not earmarked without knowledge?
See, the challenge to your question is not the money has been made available, but the businesses and smaller organizations being in a position to have access to the funds when they become available. A lot of people are going to be left out of the equation as a result of paperwork, as a result of timing not being, timing as a result of not submitting paperwork in a timely fashion. When Corona happened, a lot of the offices shut down in terms of making sure people were able to get the certain statuses they need in order to have access to the funding. And what ends up happening oftentimes, systems are created and to be very challenging for some to work their way through paperwork, understanding the bureaucracy in order to become certified to take access of the types of funding that have become available, that CARE South funding, the CARE funding that has become available. So to answer your question, how do we make sure they can have access? We have to do that before the tragedy takes place, because the funds are going to be distributed to those who know how to work the process, who know how to work the process in order to gain access. And then if they have and meet the benchmarks that are required of them to gain access to those funds, they're going to be the ones who receive the funds. And what ends up happening, a lot of times, smaller organizations depend on other people to do that work for them, and which is okay if you have the other people to do the work for you. But if you don't have them, you can't sit back and wait. You have to consistently research and find out who the people are, what are the process and procedures, and how do you gain access to the funds once they become available. That's the front side. The one thing we can do now to try and ensure that there's an equitable distribution of those funds is continuously ask questions, continuously identify who the organizations are that are available to do the work, and make sure those organizations get the information and then apply for the funds in the way that they're supposed to be applied for. If we can do that from our positions, I think we'll see a fair distribution. If we're late, if the organizations are late, oftentimes the money goes to the same people all the time. We're going to continue to see that take place now. So we have to do a good job of getting the information to the organizations that exist, that are available to gain access to those funds, and make sure they submit the paperwork in a timely fashion, and then be watchers to ensure that that money gets to them, those funds get to them, and they're able to do the work once they receive the funding.
Good. That's good, James, because a lot of times I think that organizations think that it's set up against them, but if they're prepared, then they are more likely to have access to that funding. So that's good for us. Senator Bear, before you got cut off,
Yeah.
you were sharing, and I'd love for you to kind of continue where you stopped.
Because there are several different things, like I said, moving through the process in the legislature right now, and I'm not quite sure if Councilman Cole was talking about the PPP program on the federal level in terms of the funding for businesses who were affected by COVID-19. Again, there have been two pools of money or two pots of money that have come down, and there may be a third. I heard him talking about being prepared, and so certainly that was one initiative that federal government put forward to help businesses during this time that would actually allow them, as long as they kept some of their workforce, that would allow them to apply for this funding. And if they actually kept part of that workforce, um, it would turn into a grant. If they did not, then it was a loan and they would have to pay it back. So that's one initiative. We got some things moving through as it relates to insurance, some initiatives. Well, we did a resolution, which is not a law, but it has the effect of law and has the intent that when the money comes down, because Louisiana has been appropriated $1.9 billion. And of that $1.9 billion, it has specifications in terms of how it has to be spent. What we've asked that $100 million of that actually set aside from the state for minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses, and we've also asked for $100 million to be set aside from the locals. So the locals are looking to get about 800 so million to help with some of the expenses that they occurred as a result of COVID-19, and we're asking that $100 million of that money is actually set aside to help minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses. So again, there's a lot going on through the process. We end on June 1st, and I'd
Yeah.
love to come back and give you an update in terms of what passed. But there are many initiatives to try to address COVID-19. Again, it came really, really quickly, but I believe going forward, we have to make sure that people have access to being able to have care, and that's going to be premier because um, in the beginning, I think that was a challenge, and I think it was a challenge because we just simply were not prepared, and unfortunately, people could not get tested, and they showed up at the hospital late, and when they showed up, it was too late. I mean, almost it was virtually too late, and when they received care, they was too far along in the process to come back. But going forward, I think we're going to be able to turn that curve, and watching what the health equity task force does, I think it's something that you guys probably need to would like to take a look at as well, because say the state is going to be leaning very heavily on the task force to come forward with initiatives and plans as it relates to COVID-19.
Okay, that's really good information. We definitely will be asking you back. You said June 1st.
It's the last day of this session, and then
Okay.
I anticipate that we will be going into a special session to actually deal with the budget and the monies that we will have received as a result of COVID-19.
Okay. Okay. My next question, I've had some parents wondering with these recent benefits, the SNAP benefits that were released. Do y'all know what the requirements are? Anyone know what those requirements are? Several of the parents were like, "Well, I don't normally get, food stamps, and right now I have my child at this house 24/7, eating me out of house and home, and I could utilize some help if I could get it." So, what are
The qualifications are the child has to already be on free or reduced lunch at
okay?
the school, or if they are at a school where they actually already where every child eats
Yeah, we participate
um,
in the federal program.
in the federal
Okay.
program. I can't think of the name of it, but if the parish participate in that program, then the child automatically qualifies. So they have to go on the website for Louisiana Believes dot I don't know if it's .com.
.com, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but yeah, .com, and click on the link. I talked with them because that process they had initially was too cumbersome. So I think they've made it easier, and I think they're trying to kind of narrow it down where you just go click on your child's school, and then from there it's going to take you to the other cross. They're going to do a cross tab with the child to make sure that that child does attend that school. And once that happens, you're going to receive a card for your child. I mean, it's very simple. The process as it relates to how you go about applying was a little difficult to me in the very beginning. But I think they have made the website a little bit easier, a little bit better. This was as of Monday when I had a conversation with them. And so all you have to do if your child is on free or reduced lunch, or if they are actually in the federal program and the parish allows every child to eat free, then all you have to do is go and go to louisianabelieve.org. The school should come up. If the school doesn't come up, then you have to type in your child's school
Okay,
and they will qualify.
that's great. That's great
And
information.
so it opened on May 18th and it closes on June 7th.
So they have to meet that deadline in order to qualify.
Yes, by June
Okay,
7th.
June 7th. That's good. Next question is, I think it's probably you too. I'm just Senator Barron. Somebody asked me a question concerning telehealth and the availability of those services, having been halted because of COVID. So I don't know. I'm honestly, this is somebody who works in the healthcare industry, so I really did not completely understand the question, but I was hoping that you would.
Well, telehealth is something that we are definitely learning is going to be probably a part of our new norm. We had already began to move in that vein, but trying to make sure that security as it relates to people's personal information was one of the things that we always tried to ensure was never an issue. So I think we kind of moved a little slower, but now we just passed a bill yesterday in the health committee to actually deal with mental health and making that a part of the spectrum in terms of doing telehealth. So certainly many doctors that I know now are seeing most patients by telehealth. You have to call in and they either do Zoom or some other type of medium platform where you actually have to be seen by a doctor. And even with some of the testing in the very beginning, they were actually having individuals doing telehealth. So we are relaxing, the legislature is relaxing a lot of the rules and the prohibitions that may have existed before for those individuals who actually do telehealth so that we can expand it. And so I'm looking for a lot more of that to happen. But right now, we've already began to move in that spectrum, especially with just like general practitioners. And now we're trying to expand it to include more services because more people um, or as people, I put it this way, as people are needing more healthcare services, especially specialty services, then we'll have to expand it to include those as well. But some things you still have to go in. You have to go in to be seen by a doctor.
How about for DLC? She had mentioned, this person who asked that question had mentioned that it had been suspended in the Department of Corrections. Is it going to be? Is that true? And if so, is it going to come back?
I'm not aware of it being
Okay.
suspended in DLC. But if it is, I can definitely assure you that it will come back because many of the people who are being treated in DOC, a lot of them, they are trying to make sure that they have actually placed them, if they have COVID-19, in a place where they can isolate. And then they have to keep an eye on those individuals. And my assumption is a lot of that will be done through telehealth.
Okay, that's good.
But I
Chief
could definitely
Paul,
find out.
I'm trying to get these questions. We got 20 minutes left. This is going quick. Chief Paul, I have a question. What measures are being taken to support or at least to ensure that frontline workers are staying healthy during COVID?
Yeah, well, it was important for us, first of all, to make sure they had the personal protection equipment, right? So we made sure we gave them those the PPE equipment, which is face mask. We gave them glasses, goggles, as well as um, 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 hand sanitizer. And then we changed the rules as it relates to enforcement to help protect our officers. That was important. But we've been very proactive on pushing out information to make sure that our officers knew that there were services available. In fact, we partnered with Collective Healing and Recast, where we made sure that there were counseling services available, not only for our police officers, but for first responders.
Mhm.
So that was important as well. I think you mentioned the CARES Act. As you well know, there's part of that where It also gave funding for first responders to get leave up to 80 hours of leave to take care of themselves or a loved one who may be impacted or affected by COVID-19. So we've been doing that and making sure that we have our daily briefing calls so that we can kind of keep up with the pulse on what's going on in our police department and making those adjustments along the way.
That's good. That's good, because the healthier you are, the healthier our community is, for sure. I think it's time for us to open up the questions for the watcher. So I'm ready to read the comments and look for questions. Sherman, you helping me? Okay, here we go. Trina Robinson asks, why is it that the same people who know how to work the system. Why is it that the same people know how to work the system? It should be teach one, reach one. Please show us how to navigate the system. I'm not sure what the form is a good strategy, but some of it is not detailed enough for some people. I'm not sure. Anybody speak to that question? Because I don't know if my brain is working.
I can only assume she's referring to the comments I made about the same people always getting access to dollars that are made available, and some not necessarily knowing how. I can't speak to why it's that way, and I do agree with Ms. Robertson. If you know, you should share information with others. The more people we're able to share this information with, the more people we're able to help. And so I think in terms of her question, she's asking for specifics in terms of what is out there for people who are in need as a result of COVID-19 to help them continue their lives in the most normal way possible. I think the senator talked about a number of programs that are available. And so, Senator, if you could repeat those. The CARE Fund Act is really for education and is really for schools. So smaller companies and smaller nonprofits may not be able to have as much access to those funds because they're typically for education. But I think the food service money that is available for children who are on free and reduced lunch or participate in the federal free lunch program is a great program, and we can speak to, and I think the senator did an excellent job of explaining where you are able to find that information and how you are able to gain access to that information. And so I think that's what she's speaking to, the things that we know of that we can be sure those who are in need as a result of COVID-19 can have access to it. But what I will say about this COVID-19 situation that has been the most challenging for me as an individual is things change every day. Yeah. We know what COVID-19 is. We know how it is affecting people. We know how it is affecting Black people in terms of the pre-existing conditions. But every single day, we're getting different information in terms of what's going to happen in the future. And it's very challenging to plan for the future based on what you don't know when the information changes every day. I mean, this morning on the news, they were telling us one thing about COVID and how you could possibly contract it. In the afternoon, we're hearing something different. And so we, just as much as everyone else, are in a wait and see position. And hopefully we can learn more and be able to provide more. But Ms. Robinson, to your particular question, the CARE Fund Act, providing resources and funding, additional resources and funding for children, K-12 education, as well as higher ed is one. And then a free lunch program where you're providing those resources and funding for children who are eligible for free lunch or participate in the free lunch program at the federal level, through the federal level. I think those are two really good programs that people can have access to. Children are going to have to be educated. Children have to eat. And I think those are two programs that were mentioned tonight that most of the people in the listening audience and the viewing audience can have access to and can benefit from.
And I definitely agree with her point of us sharing knowledge with one another. So hopefully we can do more of that.
Let me just add to that. One of the things that happened with the payment protection program was that it was with people that had relationships with the banks. So those small businesses or businesses in general who had a good relationship with bankers were able to apply fast and the
Yeah.
quickest. The other thing was there was some things that you had to have in place. And so if you did not have that level of business in order, by the time you got it in order, because the money was going so quickly, um, it was gone. And so I would say to individuals, especially around that particular program, I think it's all about relationships, number one, and then knowing how to ensure that you have your paperwork and everything that you need when you get ready to apply, be prepared. Because those were some of the key things that happened in that particular program. And as I kind of got involved and engaged with, especially with churches, because in the beginning, most churches, they just were not even a part of the equation hardly. They hardly, were very seldom were they able to kind of qualify and get in, especially in that first round. But what I learned is when they actually worked with a banker who really knew how to work that particular process and knew them and they had a relationship with them, then they were able to navigate it a lot quicker. But you had to also have all your paperwork in place.
Good. Okay. One more question. Is this a question or something? Okay. This may be cliche, but Chief Paul, do you foresee a problem with people in masks? Should they wear the mask or not wear the mask? And I think maybe the issue, in law enforcement.
Repeat the question one more time.
He said this may be a cliche, but Chief Paul, do you see a problem with people in masks? Like, should they wear the mask or not wear the mask? And I guess in terms of safety.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We want you to wear the mask. I mean, the mask are those are the recommendations that are being issued at all levels of government. We support it. We encourage our police officers to wear masks when you come to our facility. We direct you to have masks. If you don't have them, we'll supply you with a mask. I think under this current COVID threat that we're under, absolutely, I support it. And we have those conversations about that. So yes, I encourage wearing masks, and please wear your mask and wash your hands so we can get to some type of normalcy.
Good.
Mentioned earlier when I talked about, I think I misspoke. It's the family's first coronavirus response act that is directly for law enforcement officer that gives you up to 80 hours of emergency sick leave as well as expanded family medical leave. So that's the family's first coronavirus response act.
And are you getting officers to take advantage of that?
Actually, we have and also some of our communications officers to take care of themselves and or their family members so that they can come back healthy and strong.
Good. How has phase 1 been going in Louisiana, and when does phase 2 begin?
So it's hard to say. Phase 1 started on May 15th.
Yeah.
So typically it takes about 14 days before you see a spike. So that would be the 28th.
Okay.
Before that's when normally typically you will see if there's anything that's going to happen to be in 2 weeks. Phase 2 is scheduled to actually take place on June 5th. The governor will make a decision then as to whether or not we would actually move into phase 2, which will be June 5th. And I suspect that will be based upon the data that come forth in these next 2 weeks or next week or so.
What are some of the tenets of phase 2? Like, what's the difference? What would be the increase?
Well, I know I can't even remember all of them, but it's definitely
Just
going
a
to
couple.
expand. Like right now, I think churches are still confined to a certain amount. All of the numbers that have been like reduced to 10 or 25, all of those are going to grow greater. You still gonna
Okay.
have to wear the mask, but you will be able to serve more people. And then some of those industries that have been offline, they will begin to come online, like amusement parks. Um, I'm not sure about the parade thing. I don't know if that's going to be in phase 2. Maybe Chief Paul may know about that. But kind of big festivals may begin to, I say big, but some of those festivals, those things that you have to get a permit for, some of those states may actually be approved.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a question about crime. Has crime increased during COVID? Is there an expectation of it to increase? Can you kind of tell us the landscape on crime, Chief?
Yes, unfortunately, we have seen increases in crime. Domestic calls for services were up, but domestic incidents were up around 8% during the stay-at-home order. We're seeing some increase in some areas. Homicides are up. Shots fired incidents are up right now. So we are seeing some increases in violent crime. That does concern us. I know the mayor and I are meeting tomorrow. We're going to be discussing our strategy for this weekend as well as through the summer. So you're going to be hearing tomorrow some of the changes we're making in the department that are going to begin this weekend and are going to go to August throughout the summer to try to get address some of these spikes that we're seeing in violent crime.
Okay. All right. Well, we definitely want to be supportive of the initiatives that you yourself and the mayor are going to put forth. So we're looking forward to hearing what some of those things are. There aren't any more questions. I really want to thank you all for coming. I'm about to I think we brought Christy Perry back in to kind of wrap us up.
All right, everybody. I just want to say thank you to our panelists. You all have provided some wonderful information. We are so excited that you were able to take time out of your schedule to come here and share such great information with us. So thank you for that. I would also like to thank everyone who's tuning in. Share this information. You all have some great questions. I think it's good for our leaders to hear from the people. So thank you for your questions. Next week, we will still continue. We will continue our series. We will be dealing with COVID in the marketplace. And we are going to be looking at our educational system. Councilman Cole kind of brought out some important information relative to that initially in this session. And we're going to make sure that we focus on that on next week. Rita Wright will be our moderator. We have Dr. Tia Mills next week, Jamel Howard, as well as Dr. Kenyon Messer, who will be joining us next week. So make sure to tune in next week. Same time, same place. Also, again, if you are interested in joining our team, make sure you text Justice. Some people have already texted the number. Hey, we want you. We want you on board. If you feel that you are passionate about social justice, text Justice to 225-250-1970. And also, if you have information that you want to put out there, if you know of some opportunities that you would like to share with the community, you can text Got More to that same number, 225-250-1970. Or if you have some topics that you would like to share, look, there was something we talked about, we've covered, or we would have 4 series total, and you say, you know what, I want to hear more about this. So we'll look into that and see if we can share information about those particular topics. So on behalf of United Christian Faith Ministries and our pastor, Dr. Mark Ellis, I thank all of you for tuning in tonight and joining us for this very informative session. Thank you, and I'll see you next week. And thank you, Jasper, great moderator. See you all.
Great job.
God bless. God bless.